Basketball squad is here, and our number one story comes from right here in this city in New York. Fresh off their deepest playoff run in 25 years, the Knicks, as quickly as they possibly could, fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. The announcement coming 3 days after they were ousted from the Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games by the Pacers, against whom they were a slim favorite when that series began. And so the squad is together today. Monica was with us earlier this morning. JWill has jumped into the conversation. The Windman is with us. He's getting set to cover the NBA Finals. JB Bickerstaff and Alan Hahn with us this morning as well. Windman, before I get Jay in here, we'll start with you. For those who were waking up and didn't follow all the news yesterday, saying, why in the world would the Knicks have fired their coach after what I think anyone would consider to have been a very successful season? What's the answer?
Something was strange about the way this went down, in that what Tom Thibodeau did to his coaching strategy during the Eastern Conference Finals might have assured his firing. And what I mean by that is, after falling down 2-0 in that series, he made a whole bunch of changes. He changed his starting lineup, putting Mitchell Robinson in. He extended multiple players into his bench, something that players and team personnel and people across the league had been begging him to do for months. He also changed some of his strategies within the coaching of the game, and it worked. They won 2 of the next 3 games, got themselves back into the series, but in a way that just highlighted how his rigidity might have held the Knicks back a little bit. Now, in my view, the Pacers were the better team, and the better team won, but clearly the Knicks front office and the decision makers there felt that the team could have achieved more had Thibodeau coached a little differently in the playoffs.
Jay Williams, what are your opening thoughts?
It's hard for me to be surprised, guys, when I've seen the same movie play out 3 times. Like I've seen this in Chicago, I've seen this in Minnesota, and now seeing it with the Knicks. Wendy used the operative word rigidity. And when you think about how flexible he became with his scheme in Game 3, he was forced into that. Now, we're just not evaluating the postseason run. You're looking at the entire body of work. Let's also remember that the Knicks were 0-7 versus both the Cavs and the Boston Celtics throughout the course of the regular season. Let's also remember the stat that I gave you guys a couple of weeks ago, that the Knicks starters played 750 more minutes than the Indiana Pacers starters. All these are things that have added up to, I feel as if the Knicks upper brass has valued growth more than just stability. I also said in the show, I'm not sure that what you've seen this year just automatically translates back to the Eastern Conference Finals for next year. I think there were a lot of patterns that people have seen that make you question whether this is the right innovator to take this team over the hump, right? He's maxed out the floor, but is he a guy that can get your team to raise the ceiling? Not a lot of people were sure about that.
Well, you're there every single day, Alan, around this team, and you know it very well. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not surprising. It was stunning. The timing of it, of course, and the season that they had. This is the best season they've had in a quarter century. And he is, by the way, 4th on the all-time wins list in Knicks franchise history.
In 5 years.
That has been around for almost 100 years. So you have to think about the amount of success he's had in a 5-year span. So all those things lead you to believe that this is the most success this franchise has had in a long time, and he has been at the helm. You would think whatever issues came out of the season, you work them out in the offseason, and you'd be better for the following year with the idea of trying to win a championship. But there were exit meetings held with some players, not the entire roster, but the key players on the team. The owner was present with these meetings with the front office, and collectively they came to the decision that it was probably time to make the move based on what Jay's saying. And what Jay's saying is really a lot of the same thinking that they had. It was getting to a certain point, but they've got to take it a step further. And the belief was that maybe he was not the guy to do that. And now that leaves you in a very precarious place, because you have now got to find that guy, because the bar is now very high.
And, you know, JB, we were talking about earlier, you're a lifer. For those who don't know, his dad was an NBA coach forever. And so you quite literally grew up in this industry and in this world. And there is a belief that the players on the Knicks had a real say in this, as they should, and in the modern NBA they do. But that is a big illustration of the way the league has evolved during your lifetime.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's changed. But to that point, you know, I want to say this. Thibs is a phenomenal coach.
Right.
And in coaching circles, he's highly respected for his ability to coach, strategize, and get the most out of his players. I feel like you do a job and you earn the next year in our profession. And in my mind, Thibs earned the next year. As far as the relationships with players, it has changed. Like when my dad was first coaching and I was a ball boy in this league, like the head coach was the most important, if not the second most important person in the building. And now as time has changed and the seasons have changed, the players and the coaches have more of a 50-50 partnership. You want your players to have ownership, so you want them to contribute to some of the decisions that you make. But as a coach, it is important that you stand by your principles. The things that you believe in, you have to stand by those things.
Earning another season is pretty tough in this league. 4 of the last 6 championship-winning coaches have been fired. 2 of them have been fired twice, both of those by Phoenix. Every Coach of the Year winner from 2017 to 2023 was fired within 4 years of winning the award. So success is fleeting in the NBA. I would like to also just address one thing very quickly. I'm a Tom Thibodeau fan. I make no secret of that. I make no apology for it. I'm not sitting here saying this is an abject disgrace. I fully understand the thinking behind it, and maybe it will wind up having been the right thing to do. But I'm not here for the comparisons with Doug Collins being fired and Phil Jackson taking over. Phil Jackson took over a team that had the greatest player of all time just entering his prime, and Scottie Pippen, who at the time was probably at worst a top 10 player in the league and maybe a top 5 player in the league. This is a team that is led by Jalen Brunson, who was another NBA team decided to let him walk away for nothing rather than paying him what would amount to a very small amount of money for a superstar in this league. And Karl Anthony Towns, who is a player that a team last year made a surprising deep run in the playoffs and then traded him away immediately. That's not Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. So it is my opinion that this team maxed out its potential. This team did as much, it went as far as it realistically could have been expected to go, but I feel like it needs to be said. Go ahead, Jay, you wanted to jump in, I can see it.
Yeah, I was going to give some context here real quick, Greeny. Just know some of the upper brass on the New York Knicks. Worldwide West was a part of that 2003 Detroit Pistons team, okay? Remember that year? I mean, Rick Carlisle had back-to-back 50-plus win seasons. They won the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, and they let go of Rick Carlisle to bring in Larry Brown. So there is familiarity with getting a certain team to a certain place that maybe they see that they're saying, hey, look, based upon history and experiences, shared experiences, they've been willing to make these type of decisions before. I'm just throwing that into context because then when they brought in Larry Brown, they went to another level. It's
a good point. Look, it is, and I always screw this analogy up, but Windman, it is the whole thing about getting a horse to lead you to water, but you can't make him drink, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. Tom Thibodeau led them to water. They think someone else is going to need to make them drink. And what I'm saying is be careful what you wish for, because I'm not sure how many coaches would have found the water with this particular group. That's what I'm trying to say. The expectation of the next coach, Windy, is going to be that he makes them drink.
Yeah, and so if you look, the difference in the span that they had between between Eastern Conference Finals appearances was 25 years. Between Jeff Van Gundy, who led them to that last Eastern Conference Finals, and Tom Thibodeau, they had 13 different head coaches. So the idea that you just switch coaches here and keep on going, I think is a risk for sure. When you fire a head coach, I don't care what sport it is, who's been successful, you need to have a good plan to follow that up. It is not yet clear whether the Knicks have that plan. If they were considering doing this for a while, they would have been formulating what their options were. There are some successful names on the market who are available. However, you should know that this is a team that is very clearly ready to win right now. This is someone who's going to have to come in and instantly have the respect of the locker room. It is not a simple hire, and the stakes are very high.
I will read the names, actually, of all of those coaches since Jeff Van Gundy was here. Tom Thibodeau, Mike Miller, David Fizdale, Jeff Hornacek, Kurt Rambis, Derek Fisher, Mike Woodson, Mike D'Antoni, Isaiah Thomas, Larry Brown, Herb Williams, Lenny Wilkins, Herb Williams again, Don Chaney, and then you get back to Jeff Van Gundy. That is only going back as far as 2001. Yeah. So that's 24 years. That's all of those names, including one of them twice.
Mike Woodson, I believe, is the only one that had a winning record.
I mean, it's the only time that I can remember that they were relevant, like even remotely relevant.
4 games.
So I guess here's what I guess I'm trying to say, Thibs. About Thibs, JB. May I call you Thibs?
I see the similarity. I see the similarity.
I'm trying to come up with an appropriate nickname for
man.
you. For the rest of the day, you're going to be Thibs. Here's what I'm trying to say, and I think you said it right. Sometimes in life, we don't get what we deserve, right? And it doesn't feel like he deserved this. It feels to me like he deserved better. Now, I don't own a basketball team. It's not my job to try and win a championship with them, and I'm not pretending I know how. So understanding what they understand, having heard whatever they've heard from the players, then maybe if I were in their seat, I would have done the same thing. But what I'm saying is maybe what you said a minute ago. If what he accomplished here didn't earn you the benefit of the doubt, I'm not 100% sure what could.
Yeah, and a lot of this comes down to the perception of the deal, right? Like as coaches, we live in basketball reality. We coach every single day with what's in front of us. We don't coach listening to outside noise, distractions. We do the job. And in my opinion, Thibs did the job the way he was asked to do. The next person coming in here to play off your point is they're no longer drinking water. They're forced to drink champagne. And that's the only success for him now. If you come in here, you make it to the second round, you make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, you haven't done the job that you were brought here to do. It's going to be a tough job for whoever fills the next.
The closest comparison that I can make is it happened in this town as well. Buck Showalter got the Yankees. Actually, in '94, they were one of the best teams in baseball. Could have won a World Series that year. There was a strike. There was no World Series. In '95, they made the playoffs, but
lost to
were out in
Seattle.
the first round. They were a wild card team. That's what I was trying to get to. Then they fired him, which was stunning because they were really building from nothing in the early '90s to a team that now looked like they could be a contender. Firing him, they bring in Joe Torre, and you brought in an older manager, but he didn't have a great track record. But still, that move was a stunning move. Now it worked out perfectly. It was the right guy at the right time. And so that's now the question, is that what this hire is going to be? But I said it earlier, I'll say it again. We all know the game Jenga. You take the wrong piece out, the whole thing falls down. That's the biggest concern right now.
And the same thing happened to Buck in Arizona, if you recall.
Yeah,
He gets fired the next year. They bring in Bob Brenly. They win the World Series. We'll have time to dive into who should be next as we continue. Windman, put a ribbon on this part of the conversation.
This is a job that actually I do think is desirable, but what you have to do to be considered a success is very narrow. So who's ever going to get it better get a lot of money.
Tell you what, the first time they go on a 4-game losing streak, I'm calling up Alan Hahn's radio show, and I'm just going crazy on the coach.
We only have 6 lines.
Whoever it is.
They're going to be filled.
I'm going nuts. I'm telling you that right now. Off their deepest playoff run in 25 years, the Knicks have fired Tom Thibodeau. They did that yesterday, 3 days after they were ousted from the conference final by the Pacers. The Knicks were a slim favorite in that series. Thibodeau's successor will be the 14th different head coach the Knicks have employed since last reaching the finals in 1999. And Chris Mad Dog Russo was mad about it yesterday.
This is about Dolan. Don't let anybody in America hear you say, this is Leon Rose. Nonsense. Nonsense. Rose doesn't have any power there. Dolan does. He sits on the baseline with a dopey hat on, thinking that he knows something about, but he wouldn't even know who George Mikan is. This is not fair, what they did to this guy, who gave his life and blood to the franchise and took him to the conference. I've been there since 2000. My God almighty. And you get him out because you lost a rugged 6-game series to Indiana? Oh, come on, please. What a disgrace.
The mention of George Mikan, which is obligatory in any Mad Dog rant. You must mention a player who played before almost anyone in your audience was born. That's one of Chris's hard, fast rules, and I love it. You know, the more time I've spent thinking about this today, and JB, you and I think you sort of touched on it. Now, Chris just said in that rant, this wasn't fair. And he's right. If fairness is the objective, then this wasn't fair. He did it. There's no question he did a good job. But you know what? Life isn't fair. Big-time sports isn't fair. And maybe that's the most important lesson that we take from this.
What's the line from Jerry Maguire? It ain't show friends, it's show business.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really, this is a business decision. This was a business move. This Knick team last year especially, but even into this year, with Tom Thibodeau, Leon Rose, William Wesley, the Brunsons, the Villanova guys, it was a familiar, they were like a family kind of thing. It felt very college. And this year as well. But it started to go away because what happened? Expectations, demands, what you wanted to do, what you wanted to achieve, that became the ultimate goal now. Because while everybody was nice and everybody loved each other, then it started to become, but is it enough? Are you doing enough? And that's kind of what's happened now. And so the Knicks now have become about all business. Think about this. I know, Mad Dog went in on Jim Dolan. Jim Dolan is eating $30 million in contract with his head coach because that's how urgent they feel about winning a championship now. He is eating that money because he was told this is the decision we have to make, and we have to make it now. They're obsessed with winning a championship.
I want to look forward, but one more look back quickly, Coach. I mean, do you guys, and you just had this experience. You did an inarguably good job in Cleveland and got fired. Do coaches just accept that fairness is no longer part of the equation anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the job, and you understand that. It doesn't make it any easier. Yeah. But what I will say to you guys and to everybody, teams that are consistent through tough times, organizations that are consistent through tough times, are the teams that end up having the most consistent success.
That's extremely well said. It is a lesson that the Knicks certainly have not learned over the course of the last 25 years. So, JWill, give me the characteristics, and if you want to, give me the name of who the next coach of these Knicks should be.
Well, I think it needs to be somebody that is innovative offensively, somebody that still brings the same kind of grit, grind to the table. I think there's a whole bunch of names. I have a tendency to kind of move away from coaches that have been there before, even though I do think Mike Brown would be interesting. But I'm going to give a dark horse, guys, and I'm sure everybody's going to react to it because he has no head coaching experience. But if you ask any NBA player how they feel about RAJON Rondo, they always talk about how brilliant of an IQ that he has. And the fact that defensively, offensively, he's great at building schemes on the fly. Ask Doc Rivers, one of those championship teams that he's won. He understands Boston extremely well. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I definitely think that's a name that people should consider to be an NBA head coach at this level because of his familiarity in the Eastern Conference and because of unlocking other guards in Jalen Brunson that he can be very good at doing.
It's an interesting name. Windman, give us some more. Give us some names that are being bandied about in the circles that you run in.
Yeah, so look, you've got a number of coaches who were very successful in their previous jobs who instantaneously come to the top. Mike Brown, Coach of the Year 2 years ago with the Kings. Michael Malone, who is a little bit rigid in his coaching style. I'm not sure it's the most perfect fit. Our colleague at ESPN right now, Taylor Jenkins. All three of them very successful, just let go from their jobs, would be at the top of any list. You have two guys who were not head coaches last year, in Jay Wright because of his connection with the Villanova players. But everybody I've ever talked to says that Jay Wright is not interested in coaching in the NBA. That's certainly a call that you at least would probably make if you're the Knicks. And Jeff Van Gundy, who has been very successful in Boston and LA as an assistant as a consultant over the last 2 years. The Clippers players raved about him. He has worked very hard with Team USA, where he would have connections to a number of the Knicks players who were part of the Team USA process over the last 5 years. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it would work. I'm not sure if Jeff wants to be the head coach of any team, much less the Knicks, where he was very close to Tom Thibodeau. And if I was going to give you one name to watch who hasn't been a head coach before that I think should get an interview, that would be Royale Ivey, an assistant coach with the Houston Rockets. One of the up-and-coming young coaches in the league, was the coach of the South Sudan national team in the Olympics. He would be a guy, if you're going to put Rondo on the list, I would put Royale Ivey on that list as well.
Alan, do the Knicks have to hire some? Look, this is a tough job for a lot of reasons that we've laid out. The expectations are super high. The market is its own, sort of
crucible
animal here. Like how when you take those things into account, what things are you anticipating them doing when they look for their new coach?
I hate the word retread. You use that word. I don't like that. I think what you're looking for is resume. You're looking for somebody that has done it before. You also have to find the right personality, as you mentioned, for this market because of the demand. We're a little tough on everybody here, especially when there's expectations that are 50 wins is the bar. Anything below that, it's a failure, and that's a lot of pressure. I would also say, while you name all these names, remember, this is the Knicks. They have power. They have money. They can get who they want if they want to put all that behind it. There could be a coach who's coaching right now for another team. I'm not looking at you, JB. I'm just saying that could you pry a coach from another team somehow, some way? This could be a job that some coaches might look and say, I kind of like that situation better than what I'm in.
Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA on the ESPN.